Hi, I'm Alderman Will Burns, and welcome back to Fourth Ward Headlines. Joining us now is Wallace Goode, the Executive Director of the Hyde Park Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Thank you, Alderman.
So we were talking a little bit about your background. Seems that you have both an academic and sort of, some very interesting experiences in the real world. Do you want to sort of introduce yourself to our viewers?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I'm a kid who grew up in Woodlawn in the sphere of influence of the University of Chicago.
Okay.
I've spent 30 years as a higher education administrator at the Illinois Institute of Technology, Earlham in Indiana, Allegheny in Meadville, Pennsylvania, the University of Vermont, and I've been a dean most of my career. Wow. And then I always step out in between to get some real life experiences. I've done 2 tours in the Peace Corps. I was in the Central African Republic right after Bokassa was the emperor there, and then I was in the Solomon Islands on Guadalcanal.
Wow.
And each time it was another reality. I was doing the same thing I do as a dean, helping communities figure out what they need and how to access the resources to get what they needed. Then I went into corporate America for a while. I managed a company and I managed the offices in Jakarta, in Rome, in London, in Detroit. And
that seems a little bit incongruous.
Well, it was the Big 8,
Okay.
the automobile industry,
Sure.
and helping them manage how to open up operations internationally.
Okay.
So after being in the Peace Corps, how do you negotiate with the Japanese? How do you manage a workforce in Mexico or in Italy? And how do you deal with the code of Iceland, if you're going to be a new business manager there?
Wow.
So, and that led to me working for the mayor for 7 years as special assistant. I headed the empowerment zone. Mm-hmm. So from government and business and higher education, when the opportunity came to become the new executive director for the chamber, it's like he knows Hyde Park, he knows Woodlawn, he's worked for the city, so he knows government, he's worked for the University of Chicago as the associate dean and director of the University Community Service Center. It would make sense that he would be a good executive director for us. And that's where I am now.
Well, I'm glad that you're on board. The
Thanks.
Chamber is a delegate agency for the City of Chicago, is it not?
It is. We receive funding from there, and we also received funding this last year from the Illinois Violence Prevention Authority.
Okay.
So that's been 2 of our major sources of income.
Well, tell us what you're doing or what the project is that you're working on with the Violence Prevention Authority.
IVPA, Illinois Violence Prevention Authority, gave us a grant this year to address or to examine the impact of violence on business. And studies have shown that in neighborhoods where there isn't a huge violent rate, when there is an act of violence, it impacts businesses even more greatly than areas where there's constant violence. So the idea is looking at violence as it relates to intimate partner violence, the new term for domestic partners or domestic violence, looking at gang violence and looking at workplace violence, and trying to get a sense of how, when these things occur, do they impact businesses. It's helping businesses begin to see the signs of any of those kinds of violence. Mm-hmm. It's helping businesses understand how to react when they're in the midst of any of those forms of violence, but probably most importantly, how to recover, how to get your business back on track if you are unfortunately the victim of any form of violence. So our job is to help bring the national attention to our local businesses, to get a working knowledge from our local businesses of the reality in Hyde Park, and then to also create a team that will respond to questions for those businesses and a resource guide that we'll share with all aldermen and other delegate agencies about how you can help your businesses deal with this.
Okay, very good. Well, speaking of business, we're going through a bit of a construction boom in Hyde Park right now, right? So you have the Harper Court project at the corner of 53rd and Lake Park, and then later this year, fingers crossed, City Hyde Park, the redevelopment of the Village Center at 51st and Lake Park will start. And then hopefully later this year, 47 the Cottage Grove, another mixed-use development, will go into the ground. When I was running for office, I heard from a lot of people that it's a great place to live, nice schools, enjoy the bookstores, but there's no place for me to really shop in terms of clothing or apparel, in terms of a sort of vibrant, evening nightlife. And so the Harper Court project was designed with a lot of community input over the last decade to respond to those concerns. And now what I'm reading in the newspapers and hearing and seeing on the blogs is that this new development is crowding out local businesses that have been part of the Hyde Park community for many years, and that somehow the flavor and the fabric of Hyde Park is being altered by these projects. So I mean, can you speak to that a little bit? I mean,
Sure.
I have my own opinion, but as the executive director of the chamber, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think you have hit on a lot of the things that are going on currently, and they're all accurate. It is a vibrant community that is rich because of its boutique, one-of-a-kind kind of stores, and as things progress, there's a different flavor. The reality is Hyde Park continues to grow. Hyde Park continues to experience different kinds of opportunities, and as you mentioned, all the various forms of development, they bring an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity is it's a growing community. Almost 2 million tourists come to Hyde Park every year. Think of that as a neighborhood. We're not talking about the South Side, we're talking about Hyde Park alone with almost 2 million tourists. When we think of 15,000 students that are there, 16,000 faculty, staff, and administrators are there, and our job is to help them understand what resources exist. When I first came on board as the executive director, I pulled together how many places you can get hand-scooped ice cream and how many nights a week there are live music, free live music is performing. You can find free live performances in Hyde Park every single night of the week, someplace. Wow. And most people don't realize that, and they're saying there's nothing to do in Hyde Park. There are 13 different places, and with Kelwin's, the new place coming on, there'll be 14 places you can get hand-scooped ice cream in Hyde Park. As a kid growing up in Woodlawn, I used to go to Hyde Park on a date in high school, and we would go to Baskin & Robbins. Sure. Baskin & Robbins is coming back to Hyde Park in addition, so that'll be 15. So I think that is an interesting reality of all of those opportunities, individual places, but at the same time, how do you survive in a place where things are already tight? When parking is tight, how do those businesses survive during this time? And I think that's part of the strategy of what other opportunities exist. I've talked to enough businesses to help them begin to realize you can create an online kind of customer. One of our 4 missions of the Chamber is to increase customers. And often I say increase foot traffic, but it's to increase customers, period. So if I can help you develop a website and then help you access populations that normally don't walk when they go shopping, then we've done one of the missions of the Chamber. When I first came to Hyde Park, my goal was to see if I could buy everything I wanted in Hyde Park for the entire first month. And there were only 2 things that I couldn't find in Hyde Park. I couldn't find a belt.
That's important.
That's really important. And I couldn't find pet food for my pets. So with those 2 exceptions, I've been able to find everything else I need